Hi, this is Sam and welcome to Logic. Today's grammar video is very different from anything I've ever done before. When I first started my channel, I used a lot of very tricky grammar games to tackle specific grammar topics, and those are the games that I created myself and used to use with my students when I still taught lessons in person, and I will link a whole playlist of all these games in the description. I've put them all into one big grammar test, and I thought it would be very interesting to ask my friends to take it, both native and non-native speakers of English, and now that I've collated the results, I want to analyse them together. We won't dissect the games deeply or dwell on the logic of the answers for too long, because this video is more about how the general public reacts to and deals with English grammar. But I will link here the videos on the grammar games so you can have a thorough look at them if you want to. If you're listening to this episode as a podcast, in this specific case, it's probably better if you watch it either on YouTube or Spotify, because I will show all the sentences of all the games that I gave my friends, but I will only mention the ones that surprised me in terms of what my friends said and how they corrected them. So if you want to see the full game, it's probably better if you give it a watch rather than a listen this time. The test comprises 10 games on 10 different topics. Today we're only going to cover 5, and then I'll see if it's worth making a video on the second half. So let me know what you think in the comments, and please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Before we start, and someone accuses me again of making my videos too difficult, this channel is for advanced students, and yes, some of the sentences that we're going to look at today are absolutely absurd and not really used, but this is the kind of deep mathematical and logical analysis of English that I want to give on my channel. The first grammar game is about word order and inversion, and here you have the link to the whole video on this topic. The structure of these grammar games is that out of all the sentences that you can see now, only one is grammatically correct. Your task is to find it and to correct the wrong ones. The correct sentence is number 3. Had it not rained, I would have gone to the park. And now you can see the corrections of all the wrong sentences. Now we're going to analyze what my friends said and how well they did, and we will see a few fun facts about their answers. As a quick side note, English word order is based on the rule of SWOT, meaning that we have subject, verb, object, manner, place and time. These are just general guidelines with a lot of regulated alterations, which you can find more about in the actual video on word order. Most people corrected the correct one, which again is, had it not rained, I would have gone to the park. They didn't really change the grammar, the tenses, the verbs, but just the order of the clauses. They didn't particularly like the fact that had it not rained was at the beginning of the sentence. The options that I was given as corrections were, I would have gone to the park had it not rained, and I would have gone to the park if it hadn't rained. The first one, I think it is grammatically correct, but I believe that when we keep the inversion and transformation of if it hadn't rained into had it not rained, I think we tend to prefer using that at the beginning of the sentence. So again, had it not rained. So in an English exam, I wouldn't risk using this structure at the end of the sentence just to be on the safe side. The second option, I would have gone to the park if it hadn't rained, is perfectly correct, and it's the most standard version of a conditional. Now, the fact that these two corrections are correct doesn't, however, mean that the original sentence isn't correct. So again, we don't need to change it because it is correct. The general idea that I got from this grammar game is that especially foreigners struggle with inversion and don't remember that sentences that start with negative structures such as under no circumstances or never in a million years require inversion subject verb. But there is one exception, which is not far, which doesn't require an inversion. So with sentence number 7, which is not far from here, can you find a shopping centre? Everyone spotted it as a wrong sentence. The quickest correction would simply be not far from here, you can find a shopping centre. But what I found very interesting is that everyone corrected it as you can find a shopping centre not far from here, which is absolutely correct. But again, I found it interesting to see that no one actually kept the order of the sentence the same. Nobody started the sentence with not far from here. Don't get me wrong, putting not far from here at the end is actually more natural, so I completely understand why they did it. But again, it was interesting to see that no one kept it at the beginning as a potential option. It's now time to talk about strange plurals, and here you have the whole video on that topic, where you will also find other links to other videos about singular and plural nouns and verbs in English, such as the fact that we can say family is and family are, especially in British English. Now, these are the sentences, and the correct one is number 3. The world is full of hangers-on. The main problem I detected, especially among my non-native friends, is that some of them didn't actually know quite a few of the words in this game, hangers-on being one of them. It's not a very common word, they didn't know it, and that threw them. A hanger-on, and the plural is hangers-on, is someone who spends a lot of time with rich and important people so they can get something out of them in the future. In sentence number 6, let's not forget that the word advice is unaccountable, so we can't say an incredibly useful advice. We can only say some advice, a piece of advice, or just advice. In sentence number 4, 1 louse and 2 lice are the white parasites that live in people's hair. In sentence number 7, when I say that on a farm you can find chickens, oxes, cats and sheep, the mistake is oxes, because the plural of ox is oxen. Ox is a castrated bull, and what I found very sweet is that one of my friends didn't really know the word at all, and the way he corrected it is as foxes. So he thought that the mistake was a missing letter, which again I found very sweet and clever, because he had no idea there was another problem there, and he tried to do his best to correct it to the best of his abilities. Let's move on to the difference between long and a long time, and here you have a whole video on that topic, and I need to rectify something that I say in that video. But first, let's have a look at the sentences, which are all here, and the correct one is number 6. Sorry I took so long. What I need to rectify is that some of the corrections. In the video, I say that in affirmative sentences, we use a long time instead of long, which is why number 1 and number 2 are wrong. We don't really say, I waited long, but she never came. We say, I waited a long time, or for a long time. We don't say, it takes long to get to her house. We say, it takes a long time to get to her house. All of this is true and correct, but the way I explain it in the video makes it sound very categorical and final, as if no native speaker would ever say I waited long, and that's what I need to rectify. Sometimes you will hear it, it will come out of our mouths sometimes, but I just wouldn't risk it in an English exam, because I don't really know if they would consider it a mistake on a technical level. But yes, in normal spoken English, it can happen that we do say it. The same thing goes for number 4. She rarely stays a long time. Technically, we should only use long with negative and restrictive adverbs, such as rarely. But one of my native friends considered this to be the correct sentence, and that goes to show that you can indeed hear it. Now, I still wouldn't risk it in an English exam, because I don't really know whether they would consider it a mistake or not. But this shows that it's not a deadly sin to say it in informal spoken English. Next up is compound nouns, and here you have the whole video on that topic. Here are all the sentences, and the correct one is number 1. I found an empty matchbox. Let's look at a couple of the corrections. One of my friends corrected number 2, I'm so thirsty I could drink a whole water bottle, into I'm so thirsty that I could drink a whole water bottle. Now, number 2 is indeed incorrect, but this is not why. We need to remember that the word that is often optional in English, so whilst you can use it, not using it is not usually a mistake. The correction of number 2 is that I'm so thirsty that I could drink a whole bottle of water, where that is optional. The most interesting sentence is number 4. If a lot of gays are in a room, you can say there's a gay army, because some people picked it as the correct one and others corrected it, but not in the right way. The right correction is, if a lot of gays are in a room, you can say there's an army of gays. Now, this is based on a true story. When I was a waiter, one day this big group of gays came to the restaurant, and the day after I told my gay colleague that he missed that because it wasn't working, and I told him that he missed this big army of gays coming in, and he started getting very excited, a bit too much for what I told him, and then he said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed all these gay soldiers in the restaurant. It would have been amazing to see them and to meet them." And then I realized that there was a problem in communication there. My colleague is not a native speaker, and when I said an army of gays, he actually understood a gay army. The difference is that a gay army is a group of soldiers who are all gay, but an army of someone means a lot of someone. So an army of gays means a lot of gays. An army of wives went to see their husbands playing football. That means a lot of wives. In sentence number 5, when I found out what I'd done, I was overcome with a strong disappointment feeling, which is wrong. There was a bit of confusion with the corrections. The correct option would be, I was overcome with a strong feeling of disappointment. Some people gave me with a strong disappointed feeling, which is wrong, but other people gave me with a strong disappointing feeling. Now, I can't say that that is wrong, and I think that we would say it, but for the purposes of this grammar game, I would say that if we want to keep the compound noun, we would say with a strong feeling of disappointment. Number 6, I prefer goat milk to cow milk, is wrong, and everyone spotted that, but not everyone corrected it the right way. The correct version is, I prefer goat's milk to cow's milk. Most people, however, corrected it into, I prefer goat milk than or over cow milk, but the problem is the missing S. The game that claimed the most lives is the one on adjectives, and here you have a whole video on that topic. Out of all these sentences, the correct one is number 3. It's strange to see a lone wolf. The problem is that in English we have a few adjectives that can only be used before a noun, some that can only be used after a noun, and some that can be used in both positions but change meaning depending on it. Sentence number 2 is wrong because we can't say there were only 2 alive fish in the tank. There are 2 corrections for this. You can say there were only 2 fish alive in the tank, or there were only 2 live fish in the tank. Both are possible and correct, and everyone gave me the first one, 2 fish alive, whereas I actually expected number 2, and I just found it interesting that no one gave that to me. Sentence number 5, the adopted solution is not ideal, is wrong because we have to say the solution adopted is not ideal. Adopted is one of those adjectives that change meaning based on their position. If you say an adopted child, where adopted comes before the noun, that means a child who is not biologically yours. But if you want to say the solution that you've picked, the solution that you've used, you have to say the solution adopted. So it must come after the noun. Once again, I need to rectify what I say in the original video, because although I would never risk saying the adopted solution in an English exam because it is technically incorrect, you will hear it in normal everyday English. So just try to avoid it if you can, but you will not burn in hell if you do say it. Not many people got number 7 right. Regarding the last project, all the involved people did a great job. This is incorrect because we can only say the people involved. Involved, when it comes before the noun, it means complicated. So you can say, he gave me an involved excuse for not coming to the party. If you want to say all the people that were part of the project, you can only say all the people involved. One specific friend of mine corrected number 6 and 8 in a very interesting way. Number 6 is, we didn't want to wake up the asleep baby, which is wrong because we can only say the sleeping baby. The way he corrected it, though, was, we didn't want to wake up the baby who was sleeping. Now, this is perfectly correct, but it's a very long correction compared to the original sentence. And I just found it very interesting that it didn't pick the quick version instead. Number 8 is wrong because we can't say, I saw an afraid cat on the street. We can only say, I saw a scared cat on the street. But again, he corrected it as, I saw a cat that was afraid on the street. Again, this is correct. It's not very natural, and I don't think anyone would say it, but it is technically grammatically correct. But yeah, it was just interesting to see that he didn't pick the easy correction out of the two. And that's it for today. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel down below. And do let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Let me know how well you did in this exam with me. And also let me know if you would like to see how my friends did in the other 5 games that I gave them. In the meantime, I will see you next Tuesday with another explanation video.